My future mother-in-law, we have this huge problem. She wants me to walk down the aisle with her significant other because my father passed away. But I don't want to do that. I want to walk down the aisle with my stepdad because he's actually raised me for a really long time. I feel comfortable with him. He feels like an actual father figure, and this is my wedding. I don't understand why she thinks she gets to choose, so here's what I'm going to do.
Hey everyone, I'm Liv. I'm about to get married to the love of my life, Joe, in just a few weeks. However, his mother is adamant about causing issues for me at every step of the way, especially now that I've asked my stepfather to walk me down the aisle. For you to understand the situation, I need to tell you a bit about my family history. You see, I grew up in a family where my parents did not love each other. It wasn't traumatic or anything, I just knew that my parents weren't madly in love like they showed in the movies. So when one day my parents sat me down to reveal that they were getting divorced, I wasn't really shocked. My parents were just too similar. You see, they were both quiet and introverted, and I think their main problem was that they rarely communicated their feelings, and neither of them forced the other to open up, and their problems just kept on increasing. I'm grateful that instead of stretching their sad married life, they decided to end it and be happy, even if it was away from each other. It wasn't a dragged-out divorce or anything. My parents had once loved each other and always respected each other. So even while they were getting divorced, they were very respectful of one another. They knew that they weren't perfect for each other and needed to move on and find someone else. Both my parents shared my custody, and I would go from house to house, and they continued to live on the same block, just a few houses down from each other. Oh, so it would be easier for me to go from one house to the other. They've always been very considerate like that. For them, their daughter came before their own feelings. So even though I had divorced parents, it never truly impacted me much. There was no jealousy when both of them began dating other people. My father had begun dating this woman he knew from work, who, by the way, had also recently gotten divorced, and my mother was completely okay with it. And when my mom began dating my current stepfather, Robin, my father always used to take and ask about his health and well-being when I would come to live with them. Well, Robin was just the most outgoing, fun person ever. I met Robin after my mother has been dating him for a year already, at the age of 13, and Robin always seemed larger than life itself. And he was so good with me. He already had 3 daughters, all older than me, all in college or older, so he knew how to deal with their daughters. When they told me that they were getting married, I was over the moon about it. I felt like I had gained another parent, which I guess I did, and the wedding went smooth. I remember that I felt very giddy when he came and began living with us. Robin treated me like his own daughter, and he was just as involved in my life as a real father ought to be. Like my own father was, and I actually believe that he made me the outgoing woman that I am. There was never a topic we couldn't talk about, however personal. He was very open about emotions and always told me to never keep my emotions bottled up on the inside. He was perfect for my mom. I'd often wondered why my parents had ever married each other, being so similar. They clearly just needed somebody who would make them talk. You know, I was glad that they had found their people who forced them to open up, and I met my current fiancé Joe at a work event. After my parents had gotten me through college, I began working instantly. And that's how I met Joe. He's a very quiet, introverted sort of man, like my mother and father, but I knew how to make people open up. After all, I'd followed in Robin's footsteps, so it didn't take me long to get Joe out of this shell, and we were completely in love. If there was one thing that my parents' marriage and my mother's marriage to my stepdad taught me, it was that it's better to be with someone who's very different from you. And Joe and I are perfect. I just feel like he grounds me and calms me down from highs, while I push him to reach his potential. So, after dating for about 3 years, he asked me to marry him last year, and that's when I met his mother, Andrea. Andrea is a difficult woman to deal with. Ugh. She was absolutely very, very critical of me when we first met. She's a very primp, strict woman who looks down on people who don't adhere to the same principles as she does. When I met her, I knew why Joe was the way that he was. It was obvious. Andrea is very controlling, and I did not enjoy meeting her. I know that the experience had to have been mutual. She hates that I'm very loud and outgoing. She disapproves that I took her son skydiving, even though he loved it. She disapproves of my fashion style and how I decide to style my hair. She doesn't like that Joe mostly cooks for me, even though I know that she would hate for me to feed Joe because I'm just that terrible of a cook. In short, she hates me for everything. I'd accepted her hatred of me mainly because her opinion of me simply did not matter. Well, we were deciding when to get married when Robin called me just to inform me that my father was in the hospital. Apparently his car had been hit by a drunk driver, and he was severely injured. My dad's wife was at the hospital as well, and we spent the night there together. However, my father did not make it till the morning. My dad's death had been very sudden and had left us shocked to the absolute core. I was very affected by this, and I would not even get out of the house for days. Well, this time it was Joe who helped me out of my sadness. Joe would help me out of bed, call into my work that I would not be coming into, and even work from home some days when he knew that I was especially struggling. Robin, being Robin, would drop by constantly just to cheer me up. He would force me out of the house even when Joe would not be able to. He would get me excited for the wedding planning even though I knew that he had no interest in it. He would constantly be showing me wedding gowns that he just saw on the feed or something, just to get me excited to start planning again. And to be honest with you guys, it did really help. His diversions worked and I began living my life like I used to, while I balanced this new world without my dad. I can't thank God more for giving me this perfect family. I know everyone in my family works the hardest to make each other happy, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. However, the real problem with my future mother-in-law, it began yesterday. We were having a small dinner with both of our families discussing the wedding preparations, and as usual, Andrea was trying to take over everything, disregarding my own choices and opinions. I let her say whatever she wanted. I mean, after all, the wedding was still going to be organized according to what I and Joe wanted. But I did have a specific question I needed to ask Robin at the dinner. I asked him if he would be nice enough to walk me down the aisle. He was over the moon about it, and we both ended up crying in the moment the question was uttered. However, Andrea had a different thought. Andrea claimed that she was thinking that it would be her husband, Nick, who would walk me down the aisle now that my dad was, dead. I was confused as to why she would think so. I mean, after all, I wasn't very close to Nick, and neither was Joe. I told her that I wished for Robin to walk me down the aisle. Andrea just said that she and Nick had been dreaming since the day my dad passed away that it would be him who would be the honor because he doesn't have any daughters. I reminded her that Robin was just as much of a father to me as my biological dad had ever been. So I was initially going to ask both of my fathers to walk me down the aisle, but unfortunately fate had other plans. But Andrea tried to emphasize that her husband doesn't have a daughter. So it would make him so happy if he were allowed to perform this duty. And after all, Robin had 3 daughters, 2 of whom he had already walked down the aisle. And anyways, he was just my stepdad, not my real father. That had made me truly mad. I told her that it was my wedding, and I only can decide who will walk me down the aisle, and I want Robin to do so. That's when Andrea's truly ugly and controlling side came out. She stood up and pointed at me for being disrespectful to her and her husband. I told her that it was she who was being disrespectful by asking such questions and overstepping my boundaries. Andrea asked Joe if he would let his bride talk to his parents like that. I just rolled my eyes at that because I know her tactics. She was just trying to drag Joe into our fight. So I would be more inclined to say yes to her just to avoid making Joe uncomfortable. But I wasn't going to budge. This was very important to me. Well, when Joe did not say anything and just continued to look around in confusion and anxiety, she jumped on him. She called him a coward and many other things, claiming that he could never stand on his own. I wasn't going to let this woman insult my future husband, even though she was his mom. So I told her not to talk to him like that, and she had an issue with me. There's no need to involve Joe in it. That's when she asked Joe if he could not even control his woman. Before marriage, how would he do so after marriage? He needed to knock some sense into me apparently, and Joe had grown mad at that. I saw it in his posture, but he remained calm with his mother when he told her that it was my decision and that she needed to step away. His mom composed herself and told him that she was giving him time to convince me. She claimed that she knew her son better than I did and that he would make the right decision for his family. And she proceeded to leave the dinner halfway through. But can you believe this? Why did she expect that I would just let her husband walk me down the aisle when I had perfectly fit stepfather who had treated me like his own daughter for most of the life? But her saying that Robin is just my stepdad and not my real father has made me absolutely furious. See, Robin is my dad in everything that he does. Robin has done everything a father does for his daughter. Robin is the reason I'm the woman that I am. He's my inspiration and somebody that I can always lean on. And it makes me furious that my future mother-in-law has the audacity to be flippant about it. I'm just so frustrated by this, guys. I don't want this woman to pressure Joe or make him uncomfortable. I mean, you know? Update number 1. Hello, everybody. It's Liv again. I told you about how my future mother-in-law expects me to let her husband walk me down the aisle because my bio father passed away. And when I asked my stepfather to do so, she threw a huge tantrum about it. Well, that was a month ago and she still hasn't budged, but neither have I. Me and Joe are getting married in just a week and we're surrounded by wedding preparations. We're completely booked with dress fittings and other wedding-related stuff, you know. We haven't had a minute of rest in the last 2 weeks. I didn't know that wedding preparations were so stressful until now. For the past month, Andrea's been giving us space, which is code for ignoring us and acting like a petulant teenager. And it's been working just fine for us. Joe is a bit anxious about it, but he agrees that she is completely out of line. However, Andrea visited us today in the morning. I was on the phone with the caterer as she rang the bell. Joe opened it up for her and let her inside, and I knew she wasn't here to help out with the wedding preparations in any useful way. I was right. She was here to cause us more stress and drama, as if we weren't already swarmed by responsibilities, you know? Well, she went ahead to ask me if I had thought about our last encounter and changed my mind about who would be walking me down the aisle. I just rolled my eyes and said that I've been busy, so I hadn't had time to think about the unnecessary things just yet. You know, just to rile her up, and I was successful when she told me that it was her last warning for me to change my mind. I didn't say anything about it. The woman frustrates me, and Andrea just turned around on Joe and asked if he wanted his parents to be happy. Well, Joe tried to reason with her, and he said that it was my decision and nobody could take this precious moment away from me. He tried to persuade Andrea to understand, but she's very unreasonable when it comes to things that she can't control. Andrea asked if this was our final decision. I said it was, not letting Joe get the brunt of whatever this was. Andrea then announced that if Nick would not walk me down the aisle, well, then neither of them would attend the wedding. She told me that I had until the rehearsal dinner to decide on it, and I just rolled my eyes as she sent me away. However, Joe's been trying to persuade me to change my decision ever since she left. I'm growing annoyed. I mean, why should I just listen to my crazy future-in-law mother about the things at my own wedding? Joe wants his parents at the wedding, and I understand that. However, I'm not letting somebody I don't even really know well walk me down the aisle when I have my own stepfather, who's always treated me like his own daughter. Anyways, I think Andrea's bluffing. I really do. There's no way that she won't attend the wedding, if only to create more drama or to criticize me in any way that she can. Anyways, I'll update you guys in just a bit. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's Livvy again. So, 6 days ago I told you how my future mother-in-law gave me and my fiancé an ultimatum. She claimed that she would not attend our wedding if we didn't let her husband walk me down the aisle. And she did something unthinkable to make that happen today. So today was our rehearsal dinner, and I was very excited because I wanted to get some good food, knowing that I might be too nervous to eat on the actual wedding day with so many people and things on my mind. I thought that it would be relaxing of an event where we would have a good time, but that's not how it ended up being. The dinner was going just fine when my mother came up to us and began talking to us about the same old thing. Joe told her that she needed to respect my decision and simply back off. Well, Andrea threatened to not come to the wedding otherwise, and I knew that she was nothing more than bluffing. So I told her to do whatever she saw fit. But either way, it was going to be my stepfather, Robin, who walks me down the aisle. She took that statement literally, and after our conversation, she mostly left us alone, which truly surprised me. But she was spending this time scheming, and I just don't know back then. Well, when the dinner ended, we were all going out to the car. That's when I heard my dad scream in pain. I rushed towards the voice and saw my father on the ground, and Andrea had hit my father with her car. She was apologizing profusely, even crying a few tears, saying how she had not seen him coming when she was reversing the car. I checked Robin's injuries. His knees were bleeding pretty badly as he'd fallen on them, and even his palms were sweaty and cut. Me and Mother tried to stand the bleeding while Andrea continued with her little fake apology. I knew she did this on purpose so my father would not be able to walk tomorrow. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. Joe is pretty upset, and he's also suspecting that his mother did this on purpose. She's just that controlling. Guys, I still can't believe that she would stoop so low to control everything, but I won't let her. If I can't prove that she hurt my father on purpose, I won't let her be able to control this either. Robin's currently at the hospital, getting patched up. He can barely walk, just like Andrea probably wanted. Me and Joe have been trying to find wheelchairs that he can use in the morning to walk me down the aisle. But it isn't working out. I have not found a wheelchair, and the hospital doesn't provide its patients with one. My maid of honor, Taylor, she sent us home reassuring us that she would find a way for Robin to walk me down the aisle. But I'm still very nervous and angry at Andrea. Updates number 3. Hey guys, I'm back. So everyone, it's Liv again. Today was the day I married the love of my life. And today was also the day my mother-in-law, Andrea, tried to ruin my wedding because her schemes did not go as planned. My maid of honor, Taylor, wasn't able to procure a wheelchair in time, and our wedding ceremony was in the morning. I'd grown anxious thinking that my future mother-in-law was going to be successful and I would have to walk down the aisle with my future father-in-law instead of my stepdad like I had initially wanted. But Taylor knew how I suspected that Andrea had intentionally hurt Robin and was not going to let her win. She reassured me that she had something up her sleeve. Before the wedding ceremony began, Andrea came over with her mock sympathy, apologizing for hurting Robin, how he can't walk me down the aisle, and how her husband Nick will be eager to do so. I knew this was just an act, and I didn't even give her an answer. I trusted Taylor to pull something off, and she did. While we were getting ready, she came in through the door with a small cart with Robin already sitting on it. All smiles and laughs, and it was such a funny scene that I let out a giggle. Robin assured me that there was no way he was going to let me walk down the aisle without them, and he would embarrass himself if it meant that he would give my hand to Joe today. That had almost made me cry, and I just love Robin so much. Nick, who had initially been standing beside me, was pushed back now that he clearly wasn't needed. Then Robin took my hand and Taylor pushed the cart forward. When we started walking down the aisle, I heard people chuckling, but my eyes were just glued to Joe, who looked absolutely spellbinding in his own suit, and clearly he was feeling the same way. We were smiling and grinning at each other, and Robin's cart came to a stop. And that's when I realized that Andrea had walked out and was standing in our way. She began screaming and claiming that I just could not make her happy, that I just couldn't do that one tiny thing she wanted, and then she began calling me ugly, and saying that this stunt with my stepfather on a cart only made me look uglier and classless. She called me unreasonable and selfish, and she even pointed at Robin, saying that he ruined a beautiful moment I and Nick could have had if only he had stepped down. He wasn't even my father, after all. But I'd had enough and told her that she should be grateful that I did not press charges against her, because it was clear that she had intentionally hit my father with a car. Andrea just rolled her eyes and said that he was just a little scraped up. That's when Joe stepped in and told his mother to leave. Andrea had truly been shocked at this, seeing that Joe is a very non-confrontational person. Joe told her that if she could not be respectful and would prefer to make a scene while I was literally walking down the aisle, then she wasn't even invited to be in our life and that she was no longer our guest and needs to leave. Joe did not wait for a response and asked the security at the venue to walk her out. Then he walked back up the stage and dutifully stood up to Robin to give him my hand. I was so proud of him at that moment, and for being such a quiet person. He was truly straightforward with his drama-creating mother. Everything after that went smooth. People talked about what happened, of course, and I even heard theories about why we were fighting, but I was marrying the love of my life, so it was A-okay. Update number 4. Hey guys, it's Liv again. Just one small little last update, right? So, it's been 2 months since my wedding to Joe, and I thought that I would wrap this all up once and for all. Me and Joe have kept no contact with Andrea since she tried to ruin our wedding, but that has not stopped her from wanting to be back in Joe's life. She's been calling him daily, and we don't know why because we aren't taking her call. Joe's angrier at Andrea than even me. He's never liked that she's controlling, but she crossed a line at our wedding and he is not in the mood for forgiveness, especially at how flippant she was when I told her that we knew that she hurt Robin on purpose. And the fact that Joe is angrier than even me makes me love him so much more. Nick has not been keen on keeping in contact with us either. He isn't really that invested in his son or in controlling him, and I don't even know if he was offended that day when his son asked the security to escort him out alongside his wife. I don't know why Andrea thought that Nick walking me down the aisle would be anything special or memorable. I think she just wanted to show that she had some sort of power, control over Joe or something. Robin's doing well as well. His knees are almost fully healed and he'll end up with a few scars, but nothing has ever got him down. And knowing that Andrea intentionally hit him with her car has not brought him down either. He actually laughs about it, and I'm shocked that he isn't mad or at least annoyed. He says that it's an interesting story that he'll tell my kids one day. Even my mother was angry, and she's just as non-confrontational as Joe. And that's it, guys, for the update. I was just very frustrated at Andrea's demand when I started writing. I didn't know that she would actually try to hurt my stepdad in the future. I couldn't have ever imagined that she would have the audacity. But thank you for following me on this journey.
Alright guys, this was an interesting story, but I do want to discuss one thing that I noticed. In the comment section, there were quite a few comments who were against cutting off the mother-in-law, saying, you know what, Joe, OP's husband, he needs to have some sort of connection with his mom. Yeah, we get it, she was overbearing, she was pushing, but she just wanted something good for her baby boy. I don't really agree with that opinion. I think she seriously overstepped boundaries, and what she did to OP was a little ridiculous. I mean, stomping her in the middle of the aisle? Anyways, let me know who you would side with. The comment that says that, out of everything that went wrong, it does not make sense to cut her off, or do you think no? OP made the right decision by cutting her off, and that's final. Let's talk about it down below in the comment section, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want more daily videos, consider subscribing. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.